So I want to take a look at what a former Packers offensive lineman had to say about the new addition of Aaron Banks, the Packers signing him, guard from the 49ers during free agency. And this is Mike Wall, who was a 1998 second-round draft pick by the Packers, played offensive line with the Packers from 1998 to 2004. And he has a YouTube channel, and he put out a video breaking down the Packers and some of their free agent moves. So I'm going to leave the link to the video at the top of the description. Go check it out, because he has some great analysis, especially with him playing O-line in the NFL, specifically on the Packers. He has some great thoughts on lots of things regarding that. So he had some thoughts on Aaron Banks and sort of how he saw this move with the Packers making it in the past few days. So I'm going to take a look here at some of his quotes from that video. As I said, I'll leave it linked down below. You guys should go check it out. He is like a 50-minute video there, so go check that out. But here he says first, Aaron Banks is 320 plus. He has a physical presence. He is not as good as a player as Elgton Jenkins. Elgton Jenkins is a better left guard in the National Football League right now today than Aaron Banks is. So if you start to go, why did they sign him? Here's the deal. He's 324 pounds-ish. Big body, good mover, plays well with his hands, does a lot of things at a good level for the National Football League. He is if you look at it from the perspective of losing Josh Myers and you're bringing in Aaron Banks, that is a net win for the Green Bay Packers. So a few of the positives he notes there. Big guy. He's like, 6'5", as he said, around 324 pounds. Big body, good mover, and plays well with his hands. And so he seems to be, pretty positive about Aaron Banks' potential. He says he's a good level for guard in the National Football League. Then he goes on to talk about the O-line, saying you have your two tackles. Everybody's talking about Rasheed Walker and Jordan Morgan. Look, anything could happen because Jordan Morgan's a first-round draft pick, and those guys get chances. But Rasheed Walker played well last year. You would be insane to try to take that, to try to make that an open competition at that position when he played as well as he did. So I don't think they'll do it. So he thinks Rasheed Walker will likely stay at left tackle there, even though I do think competition could make sense, as he mentioned, with Jordan Morgan. Then he says, so you look at this and you go, okay, why would I make the left guard position weaker in order to do what with Jenkins potentially going to the center position? The only thing that would make sense. Then you start looking, okay, we've got Monk, we've got Sean Ryan, who looks like he can play center. Maybe Aaron Banks can play center. Now you've got two really, really good guards that are proven, and you can kind of protect that center position. Getting the guy there who you think is the best mover, can get to the second level, who's going to be the most technically sound and make the least amount of mental errors, and you can protect him with two really good guards. So that would be how I would attack that. It is a net good pickup because he is a better football player than, in my opinion, than Josh Myers is. The big takeaway from free agency is, do you feel that your team is net better from signing the guy? And if the answer is yes, then right now, whatever that salary seems like, and I don't know why people worry about it, but it's not going to mean anything a year from now. So his overall takeaway is that this Packers offensive line is going to be better now with the addition of Aaron Banks and by deciding not to re-sign Josh Myers. And I think I totally agree with that. I think Myers signed like a 1 year, around $3.5-ish million deal, with the Jets. So that's honestly less money than I thought Josh Myers would honestly get. But I think Mike Wall makes a great point. Just because when you look at the money, it does seem like a lot of money for Aaron Banks, $77 million over 4 years. And I just think that if you're the Packers and you're having to make that decision, they clearly knew they needed to add some more depth on the offensive line. And I think sometimes when you have such a big need or an area where you feel like you really need to bolster, you may have to spend more than people would think is reasonable for a certain player. And at the end of the day, the Packers' offensive line is better. So clearly, you don't want to overspend on players, but sometimes, you have to do whatever it takes to ensure that you have the guys necessary to protect Jordan Love, to block in the run game. So it's good to hear that Mike Wall thinks the Packers' offensive line is better, coming from a former Packers offensive lineman, and I think that's definitely the case. And I think I've been sort of seeing around Twitter and stuff, people talking about the Aaron Banks signing. Some seem to think that the Packers spent way too much on Aaron Banks. And when you look at the numbers, he's currently the 6th highest paid guard in the NFL, $19.25 million per year. But when you do factor in that every single year the salary cap is going up, it's not quite as much as I think as it looks. Because if you look at just like the percentage of salary cap taken up among certain guards, he's 12th among all guards when it comes to the amount of salary cap their contract counts against the cap the second they were signed. So, for example, he's now making more than Elgton Jenkins, who got signed, 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. But when you compare it to lots of these other players, at the time they signed, he's about 12th when it comes to the amount of cap taken up. So in 2 years, he'll probably be the 12th to 18th highest paid guard once all these other guys start to make more and more money. So it's not like I don't really think they overpaid, because here's the thing. Even if you think he's just a top 20 guard, he's getting the 12th. He's 12th in money spent at the time of the signing when it comes to the percentage of the salary cap. And so even if you're getting a top 20 guard, I feel like that's a fine amount of money to spend on him. And I assume, when you look at the different free agents, if the Packers really thought that one of their biggest needs was offensive line, which I feel like this signing shows that they did think that was the case, you only can pick from the available guards. And there aren't that many other guys who I think would have been much better options than Aaron Banks. And I was looking through a list of the available free agent guards before free agency started, and PFF did a whole list of who they think were the top guards. And among like 10 to 12 of these guards, he was tied for second highest among these guards with a positive run blocking grade. And I don't always take, I don't necessarily think just looking at PFF grades is always, a perfect way to gauge a player's value. But I do think when you add it to other factors, it can be something that can give you, some sense of an idea of how good the guy is, at least a little bit. But he was tied for second among these available guards when it comes to positive run blocking grade. So that's something there. And I think when you look at the Packers' run blocking in 2024, they were like 23rd or so in ESPN run block win rate. So they get a guy who's pretty solid when it comes to run blocking. And so I think all in all, if you're the Packers and you want to spend up a guard and you don't want to leave, or you don't want to head into 2025 with some concerns at that position, they probably had to outbid other teams. So maybe they would have liked to spend less, I assume, but if they really wanted to ensure that they got Aaron Banks, they probably had to outbid multiple other teams who also had a need at guard. So all in all, if he was getting paid, like top 5 money when it comes to percentage of the cap taken up, maybe that's more concerning. But when you're 12th in that area, I don't think they're really overspending here. So I think that it's a fine signing. I think that, as I said in my grade video, I gave it a B. I feel like you got some guys that are going to help this team in 2025. You solidified some areas where there could be a lack of depth. And so while it's not like a free agency where I'm like super pumped or super excited, sort of like last year, just because Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney were definitely more well-known players and, more flashy type signings. But these guys could be, or they will be impactful in this Packers roster, including Nate Hobbs as well. But that's all I have for today. As I said, I'll leave the link to the whole video from Mike Wall down below. But I appreciate you guys watching as always, and I'll see you guys next time.